So we're going to go through and identify each pair of angles as corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or consecutive interior. And one thing that might help would be to know that this is what we call interior, the inside, and this is exterior, here and here. So on the first problem, we're asking about this and this. Notice X is inside, Y is outside. So it cannot be alternate interior, it cannot be alternate exterior, it cannot be consecutive interior because you got one inside, one outside. They're actually called corresponding because they're in the same spot. So I would say angle X and Y are corresponding. For angle 2, or problem 2, we got Y on the outside, X on the outside. They're on different sides of that transversal. So to say something's on different sides of the transversal, we say alternate exterior. Number 3, we got an interior and an exterior. So this problem is just like number 1. We call this corresponding. And remember, by the corresponding angles postulate, if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the corresponding angles are congruent. So whatever this is equals this, by the corresponding angles postulate. Here, we have Y interior, X interior. They're both inside. So it's either going to be consecutive interior or alternate interior. Since they're both on the same side, we call those consecutive interior. And the consecutive interior's angles theorem says if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the interior angles on the same side are supplementary. So X plus Y equals 180. Next, we have Y on the inside, X on the inside, but they're on alternate sides. So we call those alternate interior. And by the alternate interior angles theorem, if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the alternate interior angles are congruent. So if this is 100 degrees, this is also 100 degrees. 6, I have exterior, exterior, so it has to be a theorem with exterior. They're on alternate sides, so I'm going to say alternate exterior. And technically I should be putting angles on the end of all of these. Okay, the measure of GFN is 4x plus 10. So I know that GFN is 4x plus 10. And then I also know that Nfe, this part, is 14x plus 3. And then I also know that the measure of the whole thing, so the whole thing, is 157. And so I need to do what's called the angle addition postulate, which says if you know the whole thing is 157 and you cut it into two parts, then both parts add up to 157. So that's going to be my equation. I'm going to say 14x plus 3 plus 4x plus 10 equals 157. And I'm running out of room, so I guess I'll do it up here. 14x plus 3 plus 4x plus 10 is equal to 157 by the angle addition postulate that says if you add those two, you get the whole thing. From there, we're down to algebra 1. We combine like terms. 14x and 4x is 18x. 3 plus 10 is 13. This is looking way easier as we go. I then take away 13 from both sides. And I get 18x is 144. And then I take 144 divided by 18. And I get 8. So x is 8. And it might be tempting, if it's A, B, C, or D, to choose x as 8. However, they didn't ask you for the value of x. They said, find the measure of Nfe. And so, a lot of you on the last test, when it said find the measure of Nfe, you were typing in 14x plus 3. They don't want it in terms of a variable. They want it in terms of like a number. So I need to plug 8 back in. 14 times 8 plus 3. If I plug 8 here, 14 times 8 plus 3 is 115. So I would say that is the measure of Nfe. The measure of Nfe equals 115. And then that's really the answer that you want right there. Now, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and plug it in here too and say what's 4 times 8 plus 10? So 32 plus 10, 42. Even though they didn't ask for that, because then I could say, is 115 plus 42 equal to 157? And that's a really good way to check your work. So yes, 115 plus 42 is 157. So here, I know that the measure of ZHG, that's hard to say, ZHG, which is Z to H to Z, no, GHG is 11x minus 1. And I know the measure of IHG, this one, is 24. And then they also tell me that the measure of the whole thing, IHG, the whole thing, is 12x plus 3. So then I'm going to use the angle addition postulate that says this plus this equals this. So I'm going to say 11x minus 1. So this should be 12x plus 13. Copy down the wrong number. So then we'll have 11x minus 1 plus 24 is equal to 12x plus 13. From there we combine like terms on both sides. I have an 11x, a minus 1, a plus 24. These two would combine to make 23. On the right, nothing combines. Those are not like terms. And then there's many ways to solve this. I think the way I would do it is I would minus 11x from both sides. And then I like to do two steps at one. So minus 11x, I could also minus 13. And I got 23 minus 13 is 10. 12 minus 11 is 1. So I get x is 10. Now I have x is 10. So I know x is 10, but they didn't ask me to find x. They said, what is IHG? So IHZ, oh, the whole thing. They asked for the whole thing, IHG. So then I need to plug 10 in for x. So what is 12 times 10 plus 13? That'd be 120 plus 13, 133. So let's say this equals 133 degrees. So I found the whole thing is 133. And then you could plug in and say, okay, well that's 11 times 10 minus 1. 11 times 10 is 110. That'd be 109. And then just confirm that 109 plus 24 is 133. And it is. 109 plus 24 is 133. In the figure, I have the figure over here. Measure of angle 2 is 92. So I'm going to go ahead and put that this is 92. And they tell me that the measure of angle 12 is 74. So I'm going to say that this is 74. And they want me to find the measure of each angle, and then also tell which postulate or theorem you used. So first, measure of angle 10. Now here's where it gets confusing, because you might be tempted to say that 10 and 12 are corresponding. But 10 and 12 are not corresponding because these lines are not parallel. Okay? These lines are parallel. How do I know they're parallel? Because that's what this symbol means. This triangle means that this is parallel to this. These lines are not parallel. They don't have the triangle. And obviously, they're going to intersect eventually down here. So the only parallel lines I have are these. And sometimes it helps to highlight them. So I have two transversals intersecting a parallel line. So first, for angle 10, I'm going to say that this is 92 degrees. And they said, why do you know that? Well, angle 2 and angle 10 are corresponding angles. So I would say, by the corresponding angles postulate. The corresponding angles postulate says if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the corresponding angles are congruent. Now let's do number 8. So number 8 is right here. I'm going to say number 8 is 92 degrees. Now there's two ways I could do that. I could use the fact that these are vertical angles, which is called the vertical angles theorem, or I could relate these two, and those are alternate interior, which the alternate interior also says they're congruent. I'm just going to use the vertical angles theorem. I know that angle 2 equals angle 8 by vertical angles. And then angle 9 I'm going to say that angle 9, there's different ways to do this. I know that angle 8 plus angle 9 are supplementary. I know that angle 9 plus angle 10 is supplementary. So your choice. But I know that, let's see, what plus 92 is 180 would be 88. So 9 is 88. Because I know that angle 9 plus angle 10 is 180. So I would say probably definition of linear pairs. Or you could say property of supplementary angles. Angle 5. I'm going to relate angle 5 to angle 12 because I know 5 and 12 are same side interior, or I should say consecutive interior. So I know 5 plus 12 is 180 because they are consecutive interior, and consecutive interior says if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the same side angles are supplementary. So 74 plus what is 180? That would be 106. And what did I use? I used the consecutive interior angles theorem. Now angle 11, I cannot relate 10 to 11 because these lines are not parallel, but I do know that 11 plus 12 is 180, or I can say that 11 equals 5 because they're alternate interiors, and alternate interiors are congruent, so I could say that 11 is 106. And I use the alternate interior angles theorem. And then finally, angle 13. I would say you can either use definition of linear pairs, connect 12 and 13, or you could do corresponding with 13 to 5, or you could do vertical, and 11 and 13 are vertical, so it's really your choice. I like vertical angles, so because 11 is 106 and 13 is the vertical angle, 13 is also 106. And how did I do that? I used the vertical angles theorem. It didn't ask for all these values, but I could plug in really fast. If that's 92, then that'd be 88. But then that's 88. So I got 92, 88, 92, 88. So it'd be 92, 88, 92, 88. And then over here, 106, 106, 74, 74. 106, 106, 74, 74. So now I have all of these angles, and if I really, really wanted to, I could take 74 plus 88 plus 92 plus 106. I could take these four angles that are inside a quadrilateral. Four angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. And if I take 74 plus 88 plus 92 plus 106, I get 360. So that's another way to check my work. Okay, numbers 7 and 8, you may notice that they both have y's and x's. X's and y's. They say find the value of the variable. So we need to find the value of x. X equals 7. Find the value of y. Y equals 10. We don't know what those are yet. And then also explain why. So when I'm starting, in order to solve, I need to make an equation. So first thought is to take this plus this and say that they are linear pairs, so they're supplementary. However, you're not going to be able to solve that when you have y's with an x unless you know how to use systems of equations. So what you really want to do, because we have this expression with the y, but nothing else has a y. So what we really want to do is we want to somehow relate this with this, because they're the only two things that have x's. So if I could relate those somehow into an equal sign, and notice that they do say these are parallel, so I need to ask myself, what is this angle and this angle? So if I know this is 3x, and those are parallel, then I know this is 3x, because they are corresponding. And then I have these two angles that are linear pairs, so 9x plus 12 plus 3x is 180. Nine x plus 12 plus 3x is 180. Solve for x. 9x and 3x is 12x. Minus 12 from both sides. And let's see, that'd be 168. Take 168 divided by 12, and I get 14. So they said find the value of one of my variables, 14. So what that means is anywhere I see an x, I can now put 14. So 9 times 14 plus 12, let's see what that is. 9 times 14 plus 12, this angle is going to be 138. And then 3 times 14 is 42. So that's 42 degrees. And notice those do add up to 180. Now I need to make an equation that involves y's. So I need to somehow relate this to anything I want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that these two are what we call alternate exterior angles. And alternate exterior angles, if you look at the theorem, they are congruent. So I know 4y minus 10 equals 138. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. Four y, 148. 148 divided by 4 and I get 37. So that doesn't mean y is 37 degrees. It means if you plug 37 in here, you can find the measure of that angle. So I found my y, I found my x. That's all. Alright, number 8. I have y, y, x. So I need to relate these two somehow. All three lines are parallel, so I could bounce from one to the other. There's not a relationship between these. That's exterior, that's interior. But I do know that if this is 3y, then that would be 3y, because they're corresponding. And then I know that this plus this is 180. Now I know 5y minus 4 plus 3y is 180. And that's how I'm going to find my y value. So I said these two are corresponding, so that's why I put 3y here. These two are linear pairs. And then from there, 5y plus 3y is 8y. Add 4 to both sides. Divide both sides by 8. And I get 23. So not 23 degrees, that's just the value of y. So now I need to find a relationship between this one, that's my x, and any other one I want. Probably going to be this one. Those are the closest. Those are corresponding. And since I know the y value is 23, I'm going to plug 23 in here and get 3 times 23, which is 69. So I know this is 69 degrees. So if this is 69, and those are corresponding, then 2x plus 13 is 69. So that'd be my equation. I'd say 2x plus 13 is 69, minus 13 from both sides, 2x, 169 minus 13, 156, divide by 2, and I get 78. So I found the value of y, I found the value of x.